Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara. Episode 20. Shri Mahaswami, the sage with eyes of light, the diary of a seeker of truth. Dr.Serge Demetrian. Dear devotees, now we shall listen to the second section of part 2 of this divine book under the subtitle The Lotus Pond. When two pairs of eyes, the teachers who can teach through silence and his worthy pupil meet, spoken words are a mere waste. Sri Muruganar, The Garland of Guru Sayings, verses 286. The Lotus Pond, Kanchipuram, end of February 1971. My presence in Madras was no longer necessary as the result of the evaluation of my doctoral thesis will take 6 to 12 months. Therefore, I left Madras, where I kept just a few possessions in the house of a friend, and went to Kanchipuram. Mr. Kannaya Chetty welcomed me without asking any rent for a place in his large reception hall. The personal decision whether or not to stay in India was only an option until I had the approval of Sri Mahaswami, who had left for a long Padayatra in the state of Andhra Pradesh. In addition to the unresolved problem of my livelihood came the question of my residential visa that was nearing its end. Because of the pressure and in the absence of Sri Mahaswami, my visits to the temple of the great goddess, where now I was a respected devotee, were longer and more frequent. Instead of weeping at my destiny, I reassured myself by declaring, "Let us act as if the continuation of my stay in India was an accepted fact." Since I missed my studies at the University of Madras, I tried to replace them with what Kanchipuram could offer. I studied with P.H. Shivasubramaniam, a Sanskrit professor who was a traditional scholar. He was supposed to teach me advanced Sanskrit grammar every day at my place. In order to keep myself even busier, I contacted another traditional scholar, Lakshmi Narasimha Shastri in Madras, with the view to studying a book close to my heart, Vishnu Sahasranama Stotra, the 1,000 names of Vishnu with the Bhashya, that is commentary of Adi Shankara, also in Sanskrit. I went once in a week to Madras by bus. The Shastri, a great devotee of Shri Krishna, invited me to sit in front of his private altar where the statue of Shri Krishna had pride of place. God, it is said, loves the courageous ones who work for a good cause. The junior Shankaracharya had been informed of my problems, and he arranged a stipend for me through a donor, an important industrialist from Salem in Tamil Nadu. It is also him, the young head of the mutt, who helped me to extend my residential visa. It was now necessary to meet Sri Mahaswami, request his approval, and come to a decision whether to stay in Kanchipuram or follow him on his Padayatra. Karveti Nagar, beginning of March 1971. The Hermitage of Sri Mahaswami. At the end of February 1971, Sri Mahaswami left Kanchipuram on foot to travel for an indefinite period, and after walking approximately 80 kilometers towards the northwest, he arrived at Karveti Nagar in Andhra Pradesh. I visited him at Karveti Nagar once for a few hours shortly after his initial arrival at this village in the beginning of March. The village, which is a center for local agriculture, had a busy market. It is situated in a valley, and its long straight lanes are encircled by medium-sized hills still covered with forest. The one square and imposing construction is the ancient palace of a Raja, now a public school, which dominates the village houses with their red roofs, composed of rows of round country tiles similar to the scales of fish, which cover the tops of the small white houses. The houses are generally peaceful and neat in appearance, with gardens at the back and open verandas facing the street. On each of the verandas are one of several large masonry benches with armrests at the ends. The visitor is a god, runs an ancient Indian saying, and travelers who would like to pass the night in the village are offered these long benches, which are painted brick red, an auspicious color. The inhabitants of the house spend considerable time on their verandas, chatting with friends or conducting business. At one end of the village is a beautiful and well-maintained temple dedicated to Shri Krishna in his aspect of Venugopala, the shepherd with his flute. He is not only the shepherd of animals but of humans too. In the precincts of the temple is an important shrine consecrated to Sri Rama. In its sanctum is a superb sculpture of the valiant prince leaning on his bow, and this is why the idol is named Kodanda Ramaswamy. At the other side of the village, at the end of a straight lane of about 1 kilometer, is a smaller temple dedicated to Shiva, the great god. Further on, about 200 meters outside the village, is a large open space encircled with vegetation. In the middle is a magnificent reservoir of almost perfect proportions of about 120 by 80 meters. It was referred to as the Lotus Pond. On the 4 cardinal points are 4 flights of granite stairs carved with bas-reliefs of marine animals. The stairs descend towards the even surface of the water where white lotuses float. There is a hut near the edge of the water on the western side. The walls are composed of panels made of woven bamboo fibers and covered with coconut tree leaves. There is a little yard on the southern side and a shed for Sri Mahaswami's red tricycle on the northern side. Behind it, there is an enclosure with a drinking water well. 2 screens divide the huts. Interior into 3 parts. The southern portion opens through a door to the small service yard. This is where Sri Mahaswami resides during his entire sojourn in Karveti Nagar. He occupies the first room situated on the northern side. The door to the hut opens directly towards the reservoir to the east. There is a tall peepal tree with a stone platform round its trunk on which are installed some small statues of deities, and it protects the hut which is near the northwestern corner of the reservoir. Skanda Hill, which is quite high and partially deforested, rises on the southern side. Sri Mahaswami's hut at the foot of the tree near the side of the water tank is in the center of a peaceful forest clearing which resembles the descriptions in the Indian epics of the forest retreats of the ancient rishis. It is easy to imagine oneself living there alongside these revered sages. Sri Mahaswami comes out of his hut in the very early morning before the onrush of noisy visitors or in the evening after their departure. When he does, he then seems to be a figure from another age, the direct descendant of an august lineage who exemplifies the very best in the Hindu tradition. He descends around 15 steps for his ablutions and sits down near the water level. He often remains immobile for long meditations. His legs are crossed on a small mat on the last step, while one imagines the nearby lotuses regret that they have not been chosen as a seat. God abides in the lotus of the heart, declare the sages. Sometimes Sri Mahaswami climbs up onto the platform that surrounds the tall peepal tree and meditates among the statues until his physical form disappears as he merges with the gods who surround him as if he were one of theirs. Karveti Nagar, end March 1971. Gandhi Ashram. I arrived at Karveti Nagar on 15th March 1971, and after the darshan of Sri Mahaswami, I asked for permission to remain in India as long as he wished and to start with about 10 days in Karveti Nagar. He approved both my requests, and through his assistance he pointed to the place where I could stay, which was Gandhi Ashram, the office of an association whose aim was to preserve the cultural heritage of Mahatma Gandhi. It was a brick construction painted in yellow, roofed by red tiles, and situated near the temple of Venugopala. It had a simple hall of 12 by 4 meters, quite high, well ventilated by 4 windows, 2 on each side, and in the back an incomplete wooden screen which served as a partition for a kitchen. On the walls there were some frames with yellowish old images. On the outside was a large open colonnade which ran along 3 sides on the building. The entry to the compound was on the south. The building was on the axis between the Venugopala temple at one end of the town and the Shiva temple at the other. The manager allotted me 2 square meters on the red cement floor in the right corner, which was near a window. My bed consisted of a mat and a blanket. I marked out the space with my luggage as the hall was also used by others. Having established myself, I went outside to explore the yard. Towards the east was a long hut with mud walls and a roof of palm leaves that was divided into 3 rooms with a common exterior veranda. There was a lengthy vegetable garden nearby, but no trace of any workshop or instruments. I did not find a spinning wheel so dear to Mahatma Gandhi. The days flew by fast and the date of my departure was approaching. 3 days prior to leave taking, I was resting in the hall in the afternoon when the manager, accompanied by one of the assistants of Sri Mahaswami, arrived suddenly and addressed the some 10 people scattered in the hall. Quick, quick! You have to vacate. Sri Mahaswami will visit Gandhi Ashram. Hurry up, everyone. As a foreigner, I have not the right, as per tradition, to stay in a place which a sannyasin enters. I jumped up, rolled up my bedding, took my luggage, which was usually half packed, and retreated to the exterior veranda that ran along the right side of the hall. There, I settled at my corresponding place on the outside of the building. Not more than 5 minutes later, Sri Mahaswami arrived at the compound gate. I do not know how the wife of the manager had the time to clean the floor of the hall and the manager to be ready to receive him as per the rules concerning a sannyasin. That is, keeping in hand a round bronze vessel full of water with a bunch of mango leaves and a clean coconut covering the mouth of it. In welcoming Sri Mahaswami, he and the assistants recited appropriate verses in Sanskrit. Not by work, not by progeny, not by wealth, they have reached immortality. Some have attained immortality by renunciation. That which the hermits attain is beyond the heaven, but it shines in the purified heart. Those who have rigorously arrived at the conclusion of the Vedanta through direct knowledge, through renunciation, that is sannyasa, and through the practice of the discipline of yoga, they are released in the world of Brahman at the supreme moment as they are beyond death. Sri Mahaswami took the coconut and gave it to one of his assistants, and then with the mango leaves he sprinkled the place with some drops of water in order to purify it. Only then did he enter the hall. Through a window, I observed all his movements and immediately understood that his intention was to stay there. I saw how he scanned the hall, starting from his left side, but nothing seemed to attract him. He had almost finished, and I asked myself if he will not withdraw from the hall, but at that same moment his scrutiny fell on the place I had just left. The 2 square meters surface on the cement floor at a right angle of the hall. For some seconds, in an impenetrable dimension to others, he weighed the situation and then without hesitation he headed towards the spot. After having purified it with some supplementary drops of water that he drew from the wooden vessel he always kept with him, Shri Mahaswami sat crossed legs exactly on the place I had occupied. He showed to his assistants that he intended to pass the night at Gandhi Ashram. Someone closed the shutters of my window towards the exterior gallery, which was of no importance to me, for just the thickness of the wall separated me from Sri Mahaswami. I passed one of the most relaxing nights of my life. Next morning, Swamiji woke up at 5 o'clock and left almost immediately. I could hardly greet him the moment he came out of the hall. I was one of the first to re-enter. I regained my old place, which was still warm with his presence. Some flowers and 2 bricks that the assistants had placed there as a pillow were left behind. I kept them for a long time with me, these 2 blessed bricks, without ever being able to make the same use of them. The minutest gesture of Sri Mahaswami towards me is invariably commented upon. The fact that he had chosen to sleep exactly in the same place I had previously occupied was considered as a mark of special attention, and I started being treated with respect. The manager came on the eve of my proposed day of departure and suggested that if I stay, I could move into the nearby hut in the yard. To live in one's own room in an Indian village is quite unusual. I accepted his offer. The room was without a ceiling and I could hear everything that happened in the nearby room. My apartment contained nothing but a floor of trodden earth. It had been copiously plastered as a mark of respect to me with liquid cow dung that is considered to be both a purifier and an antiseptic. Luckily, the specific odor disappears quickly once it dries. Taking into account the conditions, I considered the manager's offer as a sign, and as nothing justified my departure, I asked for consent to extend my stay in Karveti Nagar. Sri Mahaswami granted me permission. I then proceeded to gather the necessities that would make the room habitable. Through a local shop, I bought the necessary utensils for preparing very simple food. A kerosene lamp served as a cooker stove. As for a bed, I had a rice straw mat, a bed sheet, and a thin rug spread out on the soil. For furniture, there were some cardboard boxes. The bathing place was in the open space near the well, and there was also a very clean toilet, which was rare in these parts. Devotees, we shall continue to listen to the lotus pond in the coming episode, bowing at the holy feet of the Gurus. Aum Sairam. Hara Hara Shankara, Jaya Jaya Shankara.